the first thing I wanted to do was go back to work.
I was running from the pain that I was feeling.
I can't put my feelings over my wife.
You doing whatever it takes to not feel that pain that you feel.
I had to be righteous because I want to know, like I want to meet my child.
I wanted my son.
How's it going, man?
All love,
Good to
baby.
see you. Father, I thank you for this opportunity, for this moment, Lord God, of healing, Lord, for release, Lord God. We just thank you right now, Father, in the name of Jesus.
Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Ahmed Beatley, and I'm part of the Alana Marie Project. And we're here to just have a conversation with fathers around the topic of grief. I will pass it on to our co-founder of the Alana Marie Project to continue the introduction.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Antoine Watson. I'm co-founder of the Alana Marie Project. For those who are unfamiliar with the Alana Marie Project, we are a nonprofit organization based out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and we're here to help encourage, support, and just help families that have gone through a loss of a baby, whether it be through miscarriage, stillborn, or even infant deaths. So really, we just want to create more transparency around this subject. A lot of times people are suffering in silence, so we want to break the stigma here and talk about it, and even more so with fathers. You know, fathers are looked at as the protectors, the people that are going to keep their family together, but oftentimes fathers are not able to fully just express their own grief because we're bearing the load of our family. Our family's hurting, our wives are hurting, significant others are hurting. So I'm joined here by some other fathers here who have gone through a loss. I'm going to kick it off here, let everybody introduce themselves.
My name is Curtis Winkle. I'm a father of 5, one shortly. I'm just here to support the Alana Marie Project, support my man Antoine. He know I got him for whatever he needs. So.
Yeah, I'm Philip Cunningham. I am a father of one. My son is in heaven. And I'm really here to support not only the dads in this room, but the dads around the country who are going through the things that they're going through in silence because nobody's talking about it. And so, I just want to be an example not only to them, but to anybody else who may go through this situation.
My name is David Bishop. I am a father of 4. We lost my son at 7 months. I have 3 daughters that are very loving, and they just bring the peace and the joy from the loss that we had. But it's, like you said, it's a great opportunity to extend our hand and reach out to fathers that's going through grief and do the same process that we have gone through.
Yeah, for me, I think I can be kind of a workaholic. So initially, I just kind of got back into the process. Like I would just go to work every day, stay as late as I could, because I thought like, oh well, I can at least show my support through my ability to provide as a father and my ability to provide, financially.
Yeah.
But when I would come home, my wife would just be distraught. You know what I mean? And like a light bulb went on. It's like I'm spending all this time trying to prove to the world that I'm a good father, that I'm providing, but I wasn't there for my wife that was, dealing with everything throughout the day. So I had to kind of like kick that back and really just focus on our relationship, our communication, and just grieve together. Like her to know that like it affected me and that I wasn't going back to my job because like I wasn't, like there was no effect on the loss. That I just had a misrepresentation of what my role was. So yeah, really just that, and I found the value in communication of both of our grief and how we grieve together and how to facilitate that to the people that we care about, our support system, our family, our kids that we already had.
I think that's important, bro. It's like, as a man, when you're grieving, the first thing I wanted to do was go back to work. And the dates had hit so hard because when my wife lost our son, he was due on Thanksgiving. He passed 2 days before my birthday. They took him out on my birthday. So after, I went and had a shot, tried to numb the pain, and went back to work. But what you hit on was so important that you have to heal together, and you have to stop because it took us a while to even talk about what happened. It took us a while to come together in that grief process. Because I was like, yo, you got your half of the house, I got my half of the house. You know, and not knowing how to deal with it, you deal with it, you deal with it. But it's a process. It's a process, definitely when it's new and fresh, and you don't know what you're actually experiencing at the moment.
That's super comforting for me because it happened to me this year, right? So I'm working through it. I've never had a kid before. And so I did just jump right back into work. Like, if you were to look at my year, you'll be like, man, this dude accomplished a lot. But what I was really doing is I was running from the pain that I was feeling. Because nobody teaches you how to deal with that.
Right.
Nobody's like, because when you're a kid, they just tell you to suck it up.
Yeah.
So now you're a grown up, and all you're doing is sucking it up.
Yeah.
You're trying to navigate, and you're doing whatever it takes to not feel that pain that you feel inside. Like, so yeah, it was, man, listen.
It's crazy because culturally we're told to shut up and sit down.
Absolutely.
You know, culturally we're told to shut up and sit down. So as a man, you suppress all those emotions. And you really have shut up and sat down.
Right.
And like you said, you how I dealt with the grief, it was pretty much, you can work, what I learned as a man is you can work all you want to, but there's gonna come a day where you stop and you sit down and you gotta evaluate everything that's sitting in front of you.
That's right.
And that's when everything comes out. And you gotta deal with it. You gotta deal with it.
That's real.
That's so true, man. Like you said, society puts these stigmas on us as being men. And like when I went through our loss, you know, I just took like a week off and then I was right back at it. I was a manager for a local grocery store. And, you know, I wasn't myself. You know, people used to me being like the upbeat, positive guy, like, but just something wasn't sitting right. I was working, I was grinding, I was doing what I needed to do, but something still wasn't right. And I remember my manager at the time, I believe he was doing his best to try to help because, let's be honest, as men, we're not always capable of like just empathy and comforting, like, and he hit me, he's like, hey man, like, I gotta talk to you. I'm like, yeah, you know, what's up? He's like, man, you got a whole wife at home, you got a mortgage, man. You can't be walking around here moping around. Like, you gotta get yourself together. And I wasn't ready for that. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's a prime example. If you don't know what to say, just like don't say anything, because I kind of had held some resentment against him for a while because I'm like, I just lost my daughter like just a week ago, and you telling me
don't be moping around.
Don't be moping around. I'm like, bro, like, so I mean, I've been able to forgive him and move on from that, but I think that's just a typical reason why we're here, because sometimes as men, maybe we don't know how to express ourselves, you know, correctly.
And to be honest, and this is gonna be real, and I don't know, my wife might get mad about this, but like our wives, my wife didn't know how to like help me because I didn't know how to help me. You know what I mean? Like, so when you're going through this, the idea of talking about it, the idea of crying together, the idea of all of those things goes against anything and everything that you're taught to do as a husband.
That's
right? You're like, my job is to make sure you don't cry, that you don't go wrong, that we do eat, that we do all these things.
Right.
And then you find yourself in a situation where your ability can't rescue you from that situation. And what do you do? Like, go ahead.
I think that's where communication comes in.
Facts.
You know what I mean? And not only communication, like you said, like just culturally, we're told we need to provide. Like that's it. Like sometimes that's all you see, you know, is pushed as like as a man's job is just to provide. We don't also get that other side of it where we're supposed to be the biggest cheerleaders in our house. Like if we're men, godly men, and we are sent to be the head, like that sometimes requires to be a punching bag, but also a cheerleader, and our ability to differentiate when that needs to be and when that doesn't need to be. But you don't even get there because you didn't have a conversation with your wife. That's
right.
why prayer time with your wife is important.
That's facts.
You know, like and just overall communication. Like when me and my wife pray, like she see my heart. Like she see she sees my vulnerabilities. She's seen the things that are on my mind that I'm pushing forth that like I may not on the surface I may be like, oh, we got this, we're gonna figure this out, God can provide. But like in our prayer time, she see like, oh, he's not really, you know, he has concern about this area. He has concern about this child or this bill or whatever. And then when you get to facilitate those conversations and through communication, like I think that opens up for our wives to be able to figure out how to address us too, because we're all on the same page. We all know what we're worried about. We all know what our fears are, and it's a bonding mechanism at the same time. Not only up, you know, not only vertically but horizontally too. So that's a fact.
I think it's important what you just said, because in the spiritual aspect, we're looking up. Like we're always looking up, but you gotta take care of what's in front of you. And what you were saying was so true. It's just like, what do you? But this is the question: what do you do if you've never experienced this before? Right. What do you do if, and for example, when we lost our son, we went to my wife's mom's house. They took her straight upstairs, and I was downstairs in the basement. So in that moment, you know, I'm downstairs in my feelings, crying, and you realize like your wife is upstairs with a baby, with your baby in there, with the heart not beating, preparing for surgery. So what do you do when it's new and fresh and you don't know what to do?
Right. That's true.
I think that's where support system comes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially strong men.
Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of men that are gonna be in your life, but like, how many of them are rooted?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, you end up being alone.
Yeah.
You know, and I grew up with no strong men. You know what I mean? And I don't mean from like the perception of the world, they were strong and they provided all that stuff, but like I had no spiritually strong men in my life. So I couldn't go to, like now, like I can go to Twan and we can sit here and pray and cry together. And that doesn't, like there's no judgment, there's no you're less of a man because you're crying. Like no, because he knows my heart and I know his. And God will facilitate those things through your prayer life. That's again, like back to prayer life. Like when you pray to God, like he's gonna provide the people in your life that you need to deal with those trials and tribulations. That's why you're going to them in the first place, so you can be prepared for the next, you know, event, the next person, the next way that you can impact the world and impact your community. So I think it's very, very important that you have a support system filled with strong, you know, spiritually minded and spiritually rooted people.
You know, to be completely honest with you, this man right here. So one of the first things that we did after we had our loss, being a couple of faith, we, you know, lost our daughter on a Thursday, and there was no question where I was going to be on Sunday. You know, I was like, you know, I'm going to church, I got to be there. And to be quite honest with you, I don't really remember much of that message. Like, I remember being there. I was physically there, but what I do remember is at the end of the service, they called my wife and I up. And they're like, you know, we want to pray for you all. We want to make sure that you guys are covered in prayer. And so the church prayed for us. And then immediately as we walked back, so David and his wife Samantha actually sat right next to us. And they were like, she pulled her aside, he pulled me aside. And that's where we learned about their loss, of the loss of their son. And just seeing someone else go through that, like you never wish that on anybody, right? You know, but at the same time, this is something that's really common that happens. It happens in, 1 of 4 of every woman. So like there's so many people that are dealing with this in silence, and we had no clue. We sat next to them in church every single day and never knew they went through a loss until we went through it. And that's really what made me realize like the Alana Marie Project is needed because so many people are just like holding us inside and not truly dealing with it. Phil?
Yeah, so my situation is a little bit more interesting because my father was always my support system, right? My father, who he was when he passed, was not who he was when I was growing up. Like, you know, your dad meets God, things change. The dynamics of your relationship changes. And so, like, my dad was the person I went to for everything. Well, my dad passed the same week that my son passed. And we buried him on the same day. And so, who do I talk to? Right? And so, like, you know, there are other people who have been through this, who came to me and was like, Phil, I understand what you're going through. But the person person I want to talk to, and the person that's probably consistently giving me the coaching that I need, he's not there. And so like I really struggled for a long time, but I also found an opportunity to grow. And to actually open myself up, because this would have never happened before. I would have never talked to y'all before if my pops was here, which is ultimately making me be able to be more open to having relationships with just people in general. You know what I mean? So it's forcing you to step outside your comfort zone, to step outside of the things that you think are normal, which are probably not normal.
Right.
And really grow. So
I think that's important because what's my normal compared to your normal? What's Juan's normal compared, and just culturally and the way you was our upbringing is similar but different, right? So you had a pops that you could talk to. I didn't have a dad I could talk to. You went through your situation. They called you up on stage. That wasn't my story. Right. But what I'm saying is everybody have a different story. But like you said, with relationship and community, there's a mantra, a prophetic word that we live by is find family, discover purpose, change the world. And I think finding family and building community is very important.
Right.
And that's what from that day, we just had a bond. You know what I'm saying? And discovering your purpose, this is what opens the door for things to happen. How do you change the world? We're doing it right now.
That's it.
Having a conversation.
Absolutely.
And it's just listening to everybody's story and seeing the differences but the similarities. This is what connects us.
Absolutely.
This is what connects us.
I think it just falls back on responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, because sometimes in our life we're gonna be in a slaughterhouse, and there's no good place to stand in a slaughterhouse. But being able to be dependable. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're gonna be in a situation where there's no good decision. You know what I mean? Like you said, there's no good way to get out of not having your father to talk to, and bearing your child. Like, well, what do? You've never been put in this situation. You don't have any guidance any longer. So there's no good decision. But being reliable and being responsible and not wallowing in a corner while your family has to deal with two barriers. And your wife is dependent on you, and your mother's dependent on you. Your grandparents, all these people are dependent on you. But if you can't stand up, with your shoulders back and be like, this is the situation that I was dealt with. And we all get a set of cards, and they may not all, be the ones that we want. We might not get pocket aces. But if we can be responsible, and if we can stand up to what is asked of us, I think that will help us get back to the point where you said about love. Because we all experience struggle and we all experience love. So if you can allow the love of your struggle, the love that you've gotten from your struggle, to then pour out into other people so they don't have to feel how you felt, that's real. We win.
And that's the thing, it's like truth hurts but truth heals, right? Truth hurts but truth heals. So
should have worn that t-shirt.
Yeah, sure. But that's the thing, truth hurts and truth heals. And like you said, you got so much pressure as the man. But what do you do as the man when you're saying, you crying out, I'm the one that need the help. I'm the one that's struggling. I'm the one. And I think as men, sometimes you have to take on a selfish aspect because you need to be refilled just as your wife as your wife is being refilled. Because in our situation, I understand she was the carrier. She went through the most, she went through the surgery, she went through all these different things, and all the attention was there. So you step back, and you're like, she's the one that need the comforting right now. But when everybody leaves, you're left with yourself. They give you the how you doing. Sometimes it's just a routine of words. How you doing? It's gonna be all right. Praying for you. My condolences, all these different things, and you're like, well, hey. I need more than this right now.
That's it.
I need more. I need more, and this is what more is. It's a conversation.
That's the whole purpose of this, because like you said, as men, we feel like, okay, we can't I can't put my feelings over my wife. She's gone through the surgery, she's gone through delivering, and I know personally for my wife, she's extremely emotional, and that's not a problem. That's who she is. That's you know, the beauty in who she is, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it was like, all right, you know, she's getting this attention. I know she needs it.
Yeah.
Let me stand up, be strong, and be here for her. But I knew I couldn't take what I was feeling to her because she wasn't strong enough to bear that.
Right,
you know, I bring that to her, she's gonna break down, she's crying, and then where do I end up? You know, right back into supporting her and neglecting my own need of healing and things like that.
So you're like you're coping, right? And my wife's truth is, I thought about suicide. I thought about, you know, all these different things, and you like, yo, you hear this, and you don't know what to do with it. So while you coping, you're like, yo, is it somebody get hurt?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Somebody, and that's the attention. But I think we have to find a balance to where both spouses or whoever is dealing with the loss has the same support system. What advice would I give grief fathers in their experience of grief? To talk about it, to be very real with yourself. Because one thing I did was I suppressed my emotions. I suppressed how I felt. And there was a day that hit me, was like, yo, your son was okay on a Monday, heart stopped beating on a Friday.
Roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster ride of emotion, so you have to have, man, you learn to deal with it. And as you go through the grief process, one thing I've learned about grief is it'll sneak up on you.
Yep.
And it's seasonal grief.
Yep.
And like we said, you'll get people to say, oh, it's gonna be okay. Oh, I'm praying for you. Oh, I'm doing these different things. But when that grief hits you, I'm telling you, I could be at work and it'll sneak up on me.
Yep.
I could be sitting there watching TV and it sneaks up on me. And you like, what is going on here? And like Bro said, with his father and his son, my thing was dates, birthday, you know what I'm saying, Thanksgiving, and it just continues. You know these days, they're coming around, they're coming around, and I found a family that said, hey bro, we just gonna be quiet and we gonna let you talk and we gonna let you get all this out and we're gonna ask you, how did you deal with this? And we're gonna try to point you in the way of how to deal with it.
Right.
But it's just, I think most people wanna talk instead of getting, instead of listening.
Exactly. They feel like they gotta have the perfect thing to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need a listening ear.
Yeah.
I just need somebody to just be there. You can't fix my situation.
But bro,
Nobody
that's
can.
the thing, bro. It's just like, I want to vent to God, but I need to vent to somebody that can relate. You know what I'm saying? I need a human being standing in front of me, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that can really, seriously, genuinely relate and not go through the routine of the conversation.
That's it, man. And you know, for me, like, you talked about grief sneaking up on you. And I've noticed for me, like, it hits me a lot of times. So I got a lot of friends at like downtown Cincinnati, Duke Energy Center. They do like a big father-daughter dance, right? And like all my homies, like everybody I'm like tight with, they got a daughter. And man, they all getting dressed up and, you know, they taking videos and they're dancing. And I'm sitting there like, man, like, you know, so I'm a father of three. I have 3 boys and I'm so proud and I love them to death. But like, even if I did have another girl, it wouldn't replace, you know, my love for my daughter Alana that I lost. But here I am in a unique situation where, you know, we've been blessed to have more children, but I'm still missing a daughter. And, you know, when I see these father-daughter dances taking place, or even I randomly think like, man, like one day I was gonna be walking my daughter down the aisle, like I was gonna be doing all these things that you look forward to doing as a father, and now it's like, what do I do? Like I'm stuck with where I am, you know. And as far as grief, my wife, I don't know where she's got this from, but I've heard her mention sometimes like grief is basically love with nowhere to go. And that's a lot of times how I feel, like, you know, I want to outwardly express all this love to my daughter, but she's not here. And that brings in the grief, like, what do I do?
I think that's important, bro, because I think I took on the task of working around a lot of children, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like, this is God's plan for you. He's gonna put you around a bunch of children and this, and this. And I'm like you said, yo, these are other people's children, right? I want mine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I wanted my son. Mm-hmm. I wanted to know what he looked like. I wanted to, and I think that's one of the things that hurt me. Like we went to the doctor said, we'll try to save a piece of him if we can. You know, if we can get a handprint, if we can get a footprint, we'll try to save it. And then they came back, we couldn't save nothing. I'm like,
it's just a slight bit of like little hope you get, and then it's just taken away right away.
Yeah, no worries.
I mean, for me, it was just, I mean, like I talked about it simple times, like it was just prayer.
Yeah.
Like pray, you know, as much as I possibly could. And my prayer time has increased exponentially since that event happened. And you know, sometimes I think we get lost in the same God that we pray to is the same God Elijah and David, you know, they pray to. So the God of miracles, like that's the same God that we pray to. So it's not short of him to provide community, to provide an outlet for that grief, for that love of the grief to go somewhere. You know, and for us, we never got a chance to find out, you know, the sex. But me and Twan did a Bible study, and man, like I know he remembers, and like I'll never forget this. But like we were sitting, he said that he had to live righteous because if he didn't, he would never get to see Allah. And yo, that hit me like a ton of bricks. And for me, like I get emotional about it now. Like I know for a fact that everything that I do from that event on, like I had to live righteous. Like I had to be the best representation for my children that I have now currently, for my wife, for my brothers, for my family. Like I had to, my vertical relationship had to be on point. Like I had to get to heaven. Like I had to be righteous because I want to know, like I want to meet my child. I want to see what my child looks like. I want to know if my child was a boy or a girl, or I know that like not sex, but you know what I'm saying. Like I want to know my child, and the only way I'm ever going to experience that is by this life, this you know, the between the dads, like that snap of the finger, you know, like that little bitty time that I have here. Like I got to do the most of it so I can have that relationship that I want.
Man, that's powerful though, man, because like I was wild, like it's like. You think you're untouchable, you can do whatever you want to, but that righteous living, when it sets you on the right path, it's just like, you get it. You get it.
And that's what happened, like, so, you know, when I remember that Bible study vividly, and really how that came up was so when we were going through, doctors came in and said, hey, look, your wife has to deliver right now. She's only given a 10% chance. My wife was only 24 weeks pregnant. So I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. What you mean? She delivering right now? Like, whole room went quiet, man. Like, and then I didn't hear anything else after that. I was like, all right, like, what are we gonna do? So immediately we start reaching out to family, friends, you know, requesting for prayer. And I reached out to my pastor, sent him a Facebook message like, hey, you know, so we attend a pretty big church. So I didn't really have a personal relationship with the pastor, but I felt it was like what I needed to do. I was under his leadership. I needed to let him know what was going on. And so I was like, you know, can you guys please pray for us because this is what's going on, this situation. And I get it. You know, pastors are very busy people. He got back to me literally like the day that Alana had passed away. And I said, you know, hey, thank you so much for taking the time to write back. I said, but you know, my daughter, she ended up passing away. And he was like, you know, brother, we're praying for you. I'm so sorry that happened. You know, he was the one that encouraged me to come up after church so he can pray and talk with me. But he was like, you know, one thing that I can mention is like when my father passed away, you know, God told me that's just one more reason to go to heaven. As if there weren't enough reasons to go to heaven, but it's just one more added bonus. And that's what like hit me like, yo, like I'm in church, like I feel like I'm a good person, but we all know like it's more than just being a good person. You gotta live righteous, and that's just been my motto from that point forward. But I think I just kind of kept that to myself, and then I was just led to say that one Bible study, and I never knew like the effect that it would have.
Like like you said, not that you need reasons, but it put me on a war path. Like it put me on a war path for the gospel, to share the gospel. And like I don't want nobody that has, because we all have relationships. Like no matter if it's with, you know, your wife, with your father, with, you know, your brother, your mom, or whatever. Like we have relationships. And we all have that relationship with that person that like always try to keep us in line. That we know, like if it was asked like, yo, right now who's going to heaven? Like you be like this person. And you know you got a relationship with them. But like how tragic it is that you don't get to continue that for eternity.
Right.
And I never wanted that. Like there's plenty of people in my life that got me to where I am and helped me transform who I was, because the people y'all see now is Twan is not the person that, you know, we all got these stories. You know what I'm saying? So I just never wanted that type of opportunity to pass me by. So like I'm always indebted to Twan, but it was like another level. Like it just, he took some scales off my eyes. And
that's great, guys. David, Phil, Curtis, Antoine, thank you so much for sharing today.
Yes.
You can find more information out about the Alana Marie Project on the AlanaMarieProject.com, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and all social media platforms who are available. Thank you guys so much.
All right, thank you.